All right, so what on earth is it doing at 10:15 at night? See out the window, there's dark all over the place. Well, it's called boredom. The client sent me a text asking me to please dump the oil, change the oil, and to put fresh gas in before I try to start it tomorrow. So here's the oil being dumped. And I don't just take the drain plug out, I take the whole top hat filter out and clean up all the sludge that might be inside the oil tank. So that's done. I'll do that in a few minutes. I'll spray that clean. And over here on the bench is the top hat itself and the drain plug and the 4 volts that hold it together. I just can't see any sense in draining the oil without cleaning the filter. So I'll show you. Let's see here. I got this. Let's just hit this a little bit. That's what I'll do. Just spray the heck out of it and clean it. And I'll do the same thing down here underneath. So I'll take another can tomorrow, finish that up. Anyway, I'll let it drain overnight. And so that just gives me a head start on tomorrow morning. And I'll clean all this up and put it back together tomorrow. Well, good morning. This is the morning after the night before. The previous video was done about 10 o'clock last night when I came out and pulled the plug, took the top hat cover off of the oil tank here and drained the oil out, and I'm going to drain the gas tank this morning, and I'm going to put these carburetors back on the bike this morning. So with fresh oil and fresh gas, I'll give her a shot and see how she runs. I thought I'd show you a couple of, here's the top hat filter. I don't see any sense at all in just pulling the plug out by itself and draining out the oil and then putting fresh oil in, because this is the accumulated crud. Let me see if I can. That's the old gasket there. Really nasty. But you can see it. See the crud going away? And if I reach here and get this, you can see the crud level in here. Now I'll replace these gaskets. I haven't scraped them off yet. Getting that greasy crud out, it doesn't do any harm down there. I mean, it's just sitting there not doing nothing. The oil's on this side and it goes through here to, yeah, this is the filtering side. And then gets picked up and taken to the engine. So this stuff that's out here, you can see how much crud there is. Good old CRC. You want to get crud and grease? CRC carb cleaner. Right here. Really expensive, about $7, $8, $9 for a can now for stuff that I used to pay $3 for. I'm getting old when I start saying stuff like that. I remember when bread was 25 cents and a gallon of milk was 15 cents. I can remember those days. Well, actually I sort of can. I mean, I remember paying 25 cents for a gallon of milk. Oh well, but those were the olden days and these are now. And everything, everything is way more expensive. So I don't expect we'll ever see $3 a can crud cleaner ever again. But I'll tell you what, it sure works good. Well, like I say, I'll scrape these gaskets off and put it back on. Down here, same situation. Let's see if if I can. Let's get in here with this. Watch me drop the camera into the oil. That would be so funny. I don't know if you've caught on, but Kevin has a real, I'd say love-hate, but basically hate relationship with oil. I swear every time Kevin gets near oil, he spills it or gets it all over himself. It's become the running humor point here in the shop. Once again, I'll scrape that gasket off. And put it back together with a fresh gasket. That's a little bit better, eh? Don't you think? There might be a little bit of stuff up here that we can get off. Oh, looks like there's a bit of gasket hanging there. Let's see, can you see? Yeah. There we go. So, let's grab one for the bag. Close this up, put fresh oil on it. I want to show you something on these carburetors. Let me get set up and I'll show you something important. Okay, first a comment on the bike. You know, I have praised this thing to the skies because it's very seldom I can't find something to pick on a motorcycle. And I can't find anything to pick on this motorcycle. It is a beautiful restoration. Well, I found out by a little bird who came to me through the grapevine, through the many contacts I have in this industry. This is a restoration done by Randy Baxter in Marnie, Iowa. Randy's shop does fabulous work. So the reason I can't pick on anything here is because there's nothing to pick on. Randy Baxter does great restorations. They're just magnificent. And apparently he went through the whole engine. And it may have a lot of extra compression. I don't know if I'll do a check or not. But I'll tell you what, it takes some effort to kick her through. But anyway, the little bird told me that back then when he had it, yeah, he used to own it, it was a one kicker. So I'm hoping to get her back to that point. Now, the reason these carburetors are so nasty is that the bike was left sitting for years with gasoline in the gas tank and gasoline in the carburetors, and that's why they corroded. Now, it's not the bike's fault. It's not the carburetor's fault per se. Definitely not the restorer's fault. What it is the U.S. government's fault. They have put E10 ethanol, I guess it is, into gasoline, and that causes corrosion on soft metal parts, such as the brass needles, the brass jets that are inside, and these soft bodies. These bodies are the old amyls, and the new ones, the new amyls, are made out of aluminum. These are made out of cheese, really soft cheese, Velveeta, I think it is, and they wear very badly, which is why the slides stick a lot. Now, once you've cleaned up the bore and once you've cleaned up the slide, when you put it together, make sure that when you do this, you can hear the slide sliding very easily. On these newer older bikes, the late 70s, they changed the mounts on these two studs so that they're stepped and you cannot over tighten them. So these things get tightened down tight. Whereas in the olden days, before that, those stepped studs, it was possible to tighten these down so much that they would bend these ears, and then when they bent the ears, they would warp this body, and that would cause the slides to stick and cause no end of trouble. So on the later model of these bikes, they put in those stepped studs that I showed you. These here on this manifold And you see, you can't tighten them down too tight because they run up against those steps. That's a good thing. So you don't warp these bodies anymore. Now, like I say though, these are the best version of the old concentrics. They do wear. You can feel a little bit of wear on this needle. It's a little bit of wasp waste right there. And this jet in here, which is the needle jet, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, it's sticking up here in the center. And it wears because the needle hangs down into it and bounces around when the bike is running, like so. And that's why this wears and this wears. This is not bad. I'm going to put these back on the bike. We're going to test ride the bike. If it has good mid-range performance, we'll call her good. If there's any hesitation in mid-range or any stumbling or stuttering, I will suggest a new set of Premier Amels. They're made out of aluminum. They have a specially coated slide that'll never oxidize or grab or stick. They have a replaceable pilot jet that goes in on this side so that they're not in there fixed. They're head and shoulders above these older ones. But they're also like $600 to $700 for a pair of them, which is a lot of money. Now, if the bike runs okay, these are fine. If the bike doesn't run okay, we'll talk about getting some Premiers. It used to be like on my Norton, when the carbs got worn, you'd put on a single Mikuni. Triumphs sometimes single Mikunis, sometimes double Mikunis. And that would solve the problem. Well, that was before the Premiers came out. So the Premiers are worth their weight in gold. They're made out of aluminum. They're much better quality, but they're expensive. Okay, and for a casually ridden bike, I'm not sure they're worth it as long as these give good performance and make it a comfortable bike to take on a Sunday morning ride. I want to show you something here. Don't forget when you clean these things, first of all, you got to go in and blow out the pilot jet. You have to go in and blow out this hole here, which goes in and feeds the pilot jet. And you have to clean out these two little holes in here. Don't forget these guys. These tiny little holes here. I'm going to show you something important. I'm going to hold those there. I'm going to inject some cleaner in here, and I want you to watch what happens with these two tiny little holes there. You can't really see them. Maybe you can see those. Watch these holes right here when I inject this cleaner in there. You see that? That's two separate streams, side by side. One's on the inside of the slide, one's on the outside. They have to be clean. And these were completely occluded. They were just completely clogged up. So when you take your cleaner, which is right here somewhere, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, here it is. One of these has got to go. Here you go, Scooby-Doo, ram-a-dam-a-ding-dong. You have to use pliers like this and go in here like this, fit it in, and go like this and come down and put it into those tiny little holes and unclogagate them. Okay, I can't do this. I'm just not, I can't do it and line it up and video it. But basically, these holes have to be clear. And they were both clogged up. So there you go. I finally got it in. That's one. And there's the other. Okay, so they have to be, well, not quite the other, but if they're, I cleaned them. So you have to clean those two holes. They're very important. And you have to clean the pilot jet, it's in here. And you have to plug clean this passage, which goes down and feeds the pilot jet. All these little bitty passages get corroded because of the new E10 gasoline. The best thing to do is try to run aviation gas if you can get it, or racing gas if you can get it. Both of those don't have the ethanol. Heaven help us as vintage bike riders if they ever go to E15, because that's going to be really difficult. That stuff will be just pure acid on these old carburetors. Okay, so that's where we are. I'm going to clean up the top hat, reinstall it, put fresh oil in, and then drain the gasoline out, and then put the carburetors on, and then we'll go from there. I'll let you know. Okay? And that's the way it is. All right, the hardest part of changing the oil in these oil and frame bikes is taking this cover off, taking the top hat filter out, and then cleaning all the gaskets off. I mean, they get pressed on and they're just a pain like you wouldn't believe. Now, normally I use my stud removers to take the 4 studs out. That makes it easier to clean. But this time those studs were in there so tight, I was afraid I was going to snap one off, so I just left them and cleaned around them, which makes the cleaning twice as difficult, twice as long, twice as hard, and twice as irritating. Now, here's something we used to call afterthought engineering. If they had simply made this top hat fit inside this groove with just enough over to be pressed into place by the receiving end of the tank, and simply put a big fat O-ring right around here, that would have made this a 5-minute job. You know, take it apart, clean it all, put the O-ring back in, put it back together. 5-10 minutes. I just spent the better part of an hour just cleaning the gaskets off of these faces in order to get them clean enough to reseal. And that's just an irritation. It would actually put I guarantee you, cutting a groove in this plate and putting an O-ring in it would have been less expensive than supplying 2 sets of gaskets. And if you took this fitting and just turned it into a magnet, that'd even be better. So it'd catch any pieces of metal that might get down in there. And eliminating the drain so that people who are going to change oil had to take the cover off. That way this thing would get cleaned a whole lot more often. So anyway, that's just me kvetching. What can I say? I don't know. If somebody were to come out with a new plate as an aftermarket deal with an O-ring, that'd be really cool. I don't know. I'd recommend them. All right, so I'm going to put this thing back together now. Get all this gasket material. Oh my, it's all over the place. And then put these back on the bike. And it's 10 after 9. It took all that time just to get this thing ready to go back together. All right, top hat filter is installed. Looking good. And 2 new gaskets and anaerobic sealer, and okay, put some oil in it. Check her out. All right, I'll show you another, not a special tool, this is just a technique. A really long extension with a socket up on the drain plug and a cheater bar, breaker bar. The angle of the dangle is such that it rests right here on the lift, which gives me really good support, because people tend to use a 6-foot cheater bar when they put this sump drain in. Okay, and that makes it easy to break free. Now let me get the pan. Don't forget the pan, Frank. And there you go. 1, 2, 3. And Bob Juggle. There you go. And it's out. Let's see. It's out. There it is. There. I can never tell where this thing's pointing. So that's out. And it's not too badly bunged up. I mean, I've seen these come out. They look like they were chiseled. So instead of getting a wrench way up in there and trying to work them free, use a long extension. All right, I'm going to clean this mess up, put it back in. Well, I just did another one of those videos where the camera just arbitrarily stopped. So I will tell you what I did rather than overly show you. I don't use that cheater bar to put the cap back on, to put the sump filter back in place. I use a regular, good old ratchet socket, and I put it up in there and I tighten it until it is very tight, and then give it about another 1/8 of a turn and call it good. You don't need to use a breaker bar to tighten the thing down. I've never had one come loose. I don't know of anybody who's had one come loose. I'm sure somebody out there has a best friend's, cousins, next door neighbors, buddy's buddy had one come loose, but I don't know about that. But anyway, all the way snug, tight, 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 and then another 1/8 of an inch nudge, and that's more than tight enough. I've never seen one come out. If you've actually seen one come out you yourself, let me know. And if you use Loctite, let me know. I never use Loctite on these. Just snug them down really, really tight, and then give them another 1/8 of a turn, and they've always stayed in. That's just for what it's worth. All right, one more little tidbit on the oil change. After cleaning the top hat filter, putting fresh oil in the main tank, draining the sump, closing it back up. What I do now is on bikes that have this timing plug, I take it out and put about 3 or 4 ounces of oil directly into the sump so that the crankshaft will have something to splash around in while waiting for the oil system to pressurize itself and deliver fresh oil. So what I'm going to do is go to the other side. I'll show you. Frankly, I use a baster, kitchen baster. And put a couple basters full of oil into here. I got more cables in my way than you can shake a stick at. Like so. I don't know how much that is, but that's probably 2 or 3 ounces, and I'll put a couple of these in here. And that'll give the lower end something to play with while it's waiting for the oil system to get completely recharged. Okay? Not a crisis, but it's just something to do. All right, I put on my fancy dancy microphone system, and I've clipped the microphone to the middle of my chest. So I'm about 8 inches away from the microphone. Let's see how this works. I think I've been having it too close to my mouth and I've been overdriving it. So anyway, I'm getting ready to drain the gas out of this bike. The client wants fresh gas, so I'm going to drain the tank. What I've done is I've loosened the petcock completely. I'm going to take the whole petcock off and just let the gas go rushing all over the place. Except I'm going to catch it in this thing. It's weird, and it's a case of overkill. And I do a lot of silly things. I do a lot of coming up with solutions for problems that don't exist. And some things work and some things don't. So I'm just going to try dumping the gas right out of here into that catch basin. The gas is never going back in the bike. So let's see if I can get this out of here. And let's see, the handle's in the way now, so I'll turn the petcock on. To heck with it. Let's turn the petcock on, make life easier. Okay, now we got gas pouring. And the petcock is completely out. And there goes the gasoline. Oop. And that's a lot of yellow gas. There we go. Well, that was fair to middling, not bad. Let's go over the other side and see if there's gas over there. Okay, that's that. Let's go over and do this side. Oh, cut it out. Do you ever just get mad at they use different size nuts and bolts on different sizes? I'm just tired of it. What fits one side doesn't necessarily fit the other side. I don't know. Oh, it's very tight. This is the ground side of the battery, just in case you're worried. And now the petcock is hitting up against the oil line. Oh, gosh. Why is it always something? Either there's no gas on this side or this petcock is in a no flow condition because I'm not getting anything out of it, which is a little interesting. The fact that this oil line return fitting is right here in the way of the petcock tells me that the petcock and gas tank design department didn't talk. Look, there you go. This petcock might be bad. So the tank department didn't talk to the oil line design department, meaning that the poor guy in the field has to usually lift this tank up just to change a petcock. Or in my case, drain the gasoline. By the way, don't smoke when you're doing this. That would be a bad thing. And frankly, I truthfully should have pulled the fuse out of the electrical system. But I didn't. So that's on me. Okay. Now take this dead gas and dispose of it properly. All right. This petcock is not flowing. I'm going to give it a blow job right now. You can watch this. It's just barely flowing air. This is one of those cheapies with the rubber inset. I'll replace it, and I'll check the other one too, because it's just barely flowing air, much less gasoline. Let's go over and take a look at the other one. Now this one, no problem. I can actually see through this one, but you can't see through this one. So I will I'll take it apart. It's just got a C-clip here, and I'll take it apart and take a look at it. All right, so we got the gas tank singular drained. I'm going to put some petcock back in here, either the ones that came out or new ones, and refill the gas tank. All right, as I said, I should have had the fuse disconnected, so I just went over there and took it out. And here it is, and it is a 30 amp fuse. Somebody read the manual, owner's manual. It says run a 35 amp fuse. Well, they're talking about a Lucas fuse, a Lucas 35, which is actually a 17 amp fuse. So this thing is twice as heavy as necessary. These bikes run just fine on a 10 amp fuse. You don't need a 20, 30, 35 amp fuse. The whole electrical system will barbecue itself before it'll blow a 35 amp fuse or a 30 amp fuse. 10 amp is perfect, 15 amps in a pinch. All you need is a 10 amp fuse on these bikes, not a 35 amp like the owner's manual says. Okay? I'll throw that away and put in a 10 amp. All right, well, I took this petcock apart, and it is a good brass on brass. It's not the kind that have that cheap rubber insert, but it was completely clogged up with something black, so it wasn't flowing. So I'll clean it and put it back together. All right. I can see all the way through it. And as long as we're doing this one, let's do the other one. Now, the secret to taking them apart is you have to straddle this handle with your circlip pliers so that you can squeeze it tight enough to get the circlip out. There you go. This one's not as bad, boy, but it was half size. Okay, that's pretty grubby. I don't know if you can see in there. How dirty that Q-tip is. So it's pretty dirty in there. Okay, so petcocks should be okay now. Once again, this is just from letting the bike sit unused with gas in the tank, gas in the carburetors. They just don't like to sit. You know, these things have got to be ridden. So, all right, that's good. That ought to make things better. All right, I'm going to put these guys back together. Once again, just using the circlip pliers to put the little clip in place. Let's see. These plungers, I think I'll polish them. Okay, I'm going to put these together again, and I won't make you watch. All right, how many of you eagle-eyed followers noticed when I was working with these petcocks that they didn't have filters on them? They were getting all clogged up. I don't know if that's would have been stopped by the filters or not. But anyway, the filters weren't there. They were gone. These were petcocks without filters. Petcocks sans filters, or something like that. So I happen to have a couple. I save stuff like this. I had a couple in my bits and pieces box. So I made up some epoxy, and I epoxied this one in, and I epoxied this one in, and they'll be drying in a little while, and I'll stick these petcocks back in the bike. In the meantime, back at the ranch, it is 11:30, and I'm tired and I'm hungry, so I'm going to go inside and get something to eat. I have not yet put the carbs back on the bike. I have not yet cleaned up my workbench either. So I'm going to go get some food. And there goes the wind blowing these over. Let's get rid of this. There will be better that way. That's more stable. Stable. Okay, still pretty straight. All right, I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I'll be back in a while. Oh my, it's 2 o'clock. Wow. 5 to 2, 10 to 2, whatever. The carbs are back on the bike. Gas lines are all hooked up. Turns out I don't have any gas in the house. I got 2 5-gallon cans over there, and they're both empty. So tomorrow I'll get some gas and put some gas in and do some kicking upon the bike. I might even invite Kevin down with his size 13 massive iron-toed boots to do the kicking for me, because I can only do it 2 or 3 times before my right knee says, we're done. So anyway, it looks good, tastes good, smells good, feels good, and we'll know more tomorrow after I buy some gasoline and try to give her a start. That's it. That's just the way it is.